Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome back. Welcome to your debrief for day 3. So you had a lot to do today, as opposed to last year's day 3 where they got Trump data. All of us were a little bit triggered by that. This year you have Vice President Kamala Harris Twitter data from both her personal account and her official VP account. You also have favorability ratings on her from Real Clear Politics. So you were asked the following questions, and we've asked you to prepare a 2-minute presentation, and we're excited to see what you've come up with. So the questions were, which data sets did you use and what 2 techniques from the video did you use? Did any language in the tweets predict the number of retweets or likes and messages received, or likes by other users, or something else? Are there any features of the language of the person in the data set that have an association with their favorability ratings? We asked, how do you think that any relationships that you observe for Kamala Harris, our vice president, the first Black, Asian American, and woman vice president, might differ from other vice presidents? Please consider her race, gender, or other intersection compared to her contemporaries, all of whom were white men. What challenges did you encounter throughout the process? And finally, we asked that you produced a visualization that describes the findings of your analysis and share it on our Slack channel. You could also share it here. We're planning on tweeting them all at the vice president once we get them, if we have any. All right, and then tell us a brief description. So I'm going to turn things over to Rashan, who's going to walk through our teams. We started out with Chandra Wilson, Felicia Rashad, Ajoa Ando, Kerry Washington, Viola Davis, and Cecily Tyson. We lost the Cecily Tyson group, and from my understanding, we combined some groups. So this is exciting. So take it away, Rashan.
Cool, thank you, Nanette. So let's get things kicked off. Let's start with Chandra Wilson. So this group. So everyone has about 2 minutes. So
go ahead and raise your hand so we know to spotlight you from that group. So team Chandra Wilson, which is Imani, Asha, Christina, and Susanna.
We were pretty lost throughout.
That's okay. Give a presentation about being lost. So who's gonna speak for your group? So I don't think
we're gonna choose Imani.
Okay, Imani was voluntold. Okay, sometimes it bees like that. Okay.
Yeah, so to be honest, we didn't follow the instructions, or kind of. So what we did first was we spent a few minutes talking about like what it means to do sentiment analysis and topic modeling, and like what would the ideal end goal be. So we really actually spent a lot of time talking about like what this stuff means, and like how this would be beneficial as you like relate these likes and retweets to sentiment and the topics that were brought up. So that was the first thing that we did, and then after that we all tried to do sentiment analysis. And so pretty much we took the approach that if somebody was behind, we didn't move forward until we all were kind of on the same page, which is also why we didn't finish, but we kind of felt like that was a little bit more important. We did do like a little bit of sentiment analysis, but what we realized was that because we were following the annotated code, it wasn't really giving us what we wanted. So the annotated code shows you like the sentiment analysis based off of day, but what's probably more important is sentiment analysis for each individual tweet. And so we did start investigating that, but we weren't able to finish. And so we don't have any visualizations to show you, but I think we all now know how to clean code for sure, or clean the text for sure. And we also figured out how to use Colab, the Google Colab thing as a group. So that was pretty good, but that's what we got.
And so you looked at some sentiment analysis, right? So what about bullet like number 3? Like, how do you think that any relationship that you observe Vice President Kamala Harris, the first Black Asian woman, so like thinking about race intersection compared to her contemporaries?
Yeah, Asha can answer that question. Yeah, sorry about that.
Sorry, there is background noise in my house. Could you please repeat the question?
So yeah, so looking at thinking about Vice President Kamala Harris's race, gender, and intersection compared to her contemporaries, do you think that did you observe any like looking at the sentiment analysis that you've done thus far? Did you see anything that may differ?
We haven't gone that far, but I mean, there was just like exploratory graphs we were looking at, and we found that there was like more than double number of positive tweets as compared to negative ones. That's all. That's very preliminary, but that's all we could see. We haven't compared, it with any other variable.
Oh, I just want to add, because Asha didn't say it here, but she said it in our meeting, which was that it was really interesting to see the negative versus positive, considering when Kamala Harris actually came into office and what was happening at that time. And then she was also looking at how often she was tweeting as well. So like, that's kind of where we started before we went to sentiment analysis. And Asha was able to see like over time, you can see her tweeting more, but that was probably also in relationship to what was happening in the world at the time. So we started from there and then moved on to sentiment analysis. So yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to just jump in real quick and say our first group deserves a round of applause and a drum roll. Nailed it. You know, at the end of the day, the goal is to learn here. Whether you produced a visualization or not, there was a whole lot of learning and a whole lot of thoughtfulness here. So kudos to our first group for presenting. Thank you all. Back to you, Rashan.
Okay, so let's move on to the next group. So how about group Miss Felicia Rashad? So that's Gatamese, Andrea, Jovante, Jeremiah, and then Andrea, you'll be the voice box for the group.
Kinda.
I saw that hand raise. I wasn't sure.
Well, I'm following directions. I do that pretty well. So
You got this, Andrea. You got this.
Raise your hand so I can get spotlighted. I'm trying to do what I'm supposed to do.
Javante has his hand up as well, so you can share. You can bounce it.
Yeah. So Javante and I are going to kind of share the presentation. And so based upon the questions that were being asked, we actually started out by looking at approval ratings kind of outside of the tweet universe and found that, her approval ratings were going up and down, and we wanted to look more at the data to try to figure that out. But what we decided to do was to use the VP, her official tweet database only, as opposed to looking at the other ones. And we used several processes to clean the data. We changed the case, we removed the punctuation, we removed numbers from the text part of the data. And we use some other functions that Joe will talk about, and give you guys some idea of the interesting thing that we found out about her tweets from her official account. So Joe?
Well, I don't know how interesting it is, but yeah, so we used the VP Harris Twitter account, and we actually didn't get a chance to use any of the analysis techniques, but we got plenty of experience cleaning the data now. Like Andrea said, we dropped the numbers, the punctuations, and things like that. But we actually, we combined all of the, I think it's called stemming. So we combined all of the similar words, America, American, Americas, all of those are now in the same category. And so we looked at we looked at which words had the highest retweets. And so we actually found that the word American had the highest retweets. American, America, all of those things. And then next were we and people. So that's what we found.
And I'll just say that what we think, based upon just that little preliminary analysis, is that she may have needed to say America, American as often as she could because of her status as being African American and Asian and needing to kind of communicate her alliance with the notion of America, American. And so even though we thought that was even though that was preliminary, I think that's some insight into probably what she needed to do or felt she had to do in that, you know, in that official space.
A comparison between that and Mike Pence could be interesting.
Yes.
Great work, super interesting. Again, round of applause, nailed it. Everybody, please give them some love. You know, there you go. All right, back to you, Rashan. Who's up next?
Yeah, great job, team Felicia, Rashad. So let's do. Let's do group Adjoa and Do. So that is Bingi, Daniel, and Rebecca. And who will be the spokesperson? So Daniel, you'll be the spokesperson for the group.
Yeah, I can kick us off, and then Rebecca and BJ can jump in if I miss anything. We definitely struggled a lot with just like the pre-processing at first. One specific challenge we had was understanding the difference between the corpus pre-processing approach and the tidy text approach, especially because like it was like we were trying to figure out like, okay, we get through the pre-processing, and then when we get to like the LDA, the topic analysis, like what is it that we're actually feeding into that formula? And so we spent a lot of time in office hours trying to figure that out. Another thing that we spent some time on was, or another challenge that we experienced was removing custom stop words. So we went through the process of like Joe touched on, removing punctuation, removing numbers, removing white space, the stemming. And then when we looked at the frequency of the words that were left, we saw like the HTTP, for example, was one set of strings that still came up a lot. So we had to add that into like custom stop words to remove. So that took a lot of time. I didn't even think we were going to get to any analysis, to be honest, but we managed to figure out the LDA. So we were able to generate some topics that I can show. And I think Chris mentioned in the video, but when you're determining like the K, the number of topics with the LDA, it's kind of like an iterative process. Like you're not going to get it right on the first time. So we played around with this a little bit. One thing that we were still seeing was that there's like, these topics aren't super different. Like the word American pops up in a lot of them. So this wasn't super helpful in terms of trying to figure out sets of topics with the tweets. And then we moved on to the structural topic modeling, which builds in the metadata to try to get some more like accurate topics. And so with the same number of topics, we see a little more differentiation between the words that are represented in each, but still hard to know, like, you know, how you would label each of these topics here. But yeah, that's as far as we got. I don't know if you want to add anything, Rebecca, because Rebecca was interested in more of the sentiment analysis stuff. I was doing more of the topic analysis.
So for a while, our group was actually separated. Like Daniel went to the TA room, and initially we were trying to set up the collab. Didn't work as well as we predict, but there's a learning curve to everything. So we end up doing our studio separately. We do the share screen style. And we do the sentiment analysis a little bit, and then so I'll share my screen. So this is what we get over here, and I don't know if this means anything, but on December 2nd, 2020, she tweeted something, and then 2 words are positive, and then 1 word is negative. And then later on, she tweeted something with like 5 words that are considered positive. So this is a very beginning of sentiment analysis. So I don't know if BJ has something you want to chime in.
No, not really. I just spent too much time on the collab, but I hate that, so.
Okay, again, drum roll, please give some love to our team. Yes, we have a visual. Please send that to me on Slack. So my goal is to make Kamala Harris y'all's best friend. So let's tweet this at her. Okay, so please put that up on Slack so we have that. All right, back to Rashan for our final group, our mega group.
Our collab, duo, duet, even though it's not a singing group, but if you want to sing, that's fine too. Yeah, good job at DOA Endo group. So we have Carrie Washington and Viola Davis. Who will be the spokesperson or spokespeople for the group?
Put your hand up so we can find you, please.
And so
don't everybody jump in all at once.
Ayatada, Grace.
There we go.
Erica, Renee. Okay, so Amber has her hand up.
Got Amber in there.
Anyone will be sharing the spotlight with Erica? I mean, with Amber.
Erica, yes, please.
Woo!
Like,
look at he's psychic.
Okay, so I can start off by talking about the two techniques. We did use a dictionary-based method with the sentiment analysis. I think that most of our strategy was going through the code that was provided and trying to see if we can make it work with the data that we had. I can share my screen quickly just to show that we did end up having two plots, one that showed the approval of Kamala Harris, which was decreasing over time for the most part. And then we also had the negative sentiment plot, which was really going up and down. We did start doing some work with topic modeling, but we had an issue similar to the other group where a lot of the words were repeated across topics, so it wasn't necessarily as enriching as some other methods might have been.
Awesome. Erica, did you want to share anything maybe about either challenges or looking at the bullet point, thinking about like contemporaries and anything that you've seen?
Yeah, sure. Also, there's one plot that Amber, we didn't share the most frequent word, so I'm just going to share that as well. So that's another plot that we work. So here was, I think, was the first plot that we work. But basically, we were working all together, trying to each of us code in our computer, and we were trying to figure out together what we were supposed to do, what went wrong, how can we all move together. So, and we decided at the beginning that we were going to do like sentiment and just dictionary and thought modeling, and then maybe we would focus on the other questions, but we didn't get there. So we were just more worried about the process of everybody knowing and learning with the process.
Thank you, everyone. Again, nailed it. Please, everyone, give them some love. That's all of our groups. Okay, I'm going to repeat this. Please, everyone, share, write up and share what you learned today. So about these tweets, about the favorability, about approval ratings, write it all up, and we are going to put it into a massive, amazing package. We're going to be tweeting stuff, but we're also, we have some cool contacts in the president and provost's office at Howard. So we would like to package this and try and get this to her. So please put some stuff up on Slack tonight so we can package that all together. Who knows? Maybe there's a paper here for all of us. How cool would that be if our entire site pulled together a paper here? So one of the things that's kind of interesting to me is that that the negative sentiment tweets don't appear to track with decreasing favorability rating. So it's a lot of interesting stuff here. Okay, so we're slightly over on time. I want to make sure you all have your break. Okay, so we're going to give you your break. We're going to take 15 minutes and give you a full break, and we will still have enough time to do our our motivational speaker. So everybody, you've got, let's see, I can do 7, 8, 9, 15 minutes. It's 1:53 right now. Please come back at, I can do this, 1:08. Sorry, 2:08 for me, which is 4:08 for most of you. So we're coming back at 4:08. Take a few minutes. You're welcome to go to one of the breakout rooms. Turn off your camera. We'll come back and do our have our motivational talk. We've got a motivational talk this week and the keynote next week. So take a break and we'll be back in a few. Thank you all for watching. For more information on SICSS-Howard Mathematica, visit our website, follow us on social media, and join our email list.